let's take a look at this week's Tinkercad design exercises. Click on Resources, Learning Center, View All, scroll down, and this week you'll be doing the exercise entitled Name That Keychain. It won't look like this. Yours will be just straight across, but you'll be making another variation of a keychain with your name. Luggage tag. Do the entire tag, but you don't need to use your actual home address if you don't wish. You can use the address of your school instead. You'll be doing the zipper pull, make everyday objects. If you click on this exercise, you'll see that there are several lessons included in it. You only need to do number 4, the backpack zipper pull. And similarly for Make Everyday Objects, Part 2, if we look at that exercise, you'll see there are 3 lessons, and you will only need to do number 3, create your own monogrammed ring. For all of these exercises except the monogrammed ring, the settings are very straightforward for flash print. They're flat models with no overhangs or other unusual features to keep in mind. But the ring poses some interesting challenges, and we'll take a quick look at that now. Here's the monogrammed ring in flash print. I'll click Move, On Platform, Center, and then scroll in, click View, then click and hold on the model to move it up to the center of the screen, and continue to zoom in so that we can examine it more closely. Look at the bottom. You can barely see little tiny tips of blue here. That's where the model is actually resting on the print bed. The rest of these facets are all in red at the bottom, indicating that they're not flat on the print bed. They're at these very bottom ones in particular are at a very steep angle, and then the next row at less of an angle. But that's all going to need supports. And of course, underneath these letters will also need supports. Now you might think that just rotating the ring would solve the problem of most of those supports, at least for the letters. But let's take a look at that. We want to rotate it in the X direction. We'll click 90 degrees. Oop, it's the opposite of what we want. That's okay. We'll just click 90 and 90. So now that it's facing up, click off the model. So this orientation, the letters would not require supports, but of course now the inside of the ring and this whole bottom area would require supports. So you could print it this way. You would end up with sort of topographic effect layer lines for the letters, which might be fine if you're printing at a high enough resolution, but there is a way to get smoother letters, and that's to print it in its original orientation. The other concern you might have about printing the model this way is that with those interior supports, those will come out, but there'll be a little bit of roughness there. Of course, you can use an X-Acto knife and even sandpaper to smooth that out, because you're not going to want that rough surface against your skin, the skin of your finger. But if we print it, the model in its original orientation, there will be no supports on the inside, and so it will be nice and smooth. So I'm going to try it that way. Now, remember, you can print it multiple ways. You can try printing it standing up, and you can try printing it laying down like this, and see which orientation you prefer. It's a small model, so it shouldn't take very long to print. Because it's barely touching the build plate, I'm going to go ahead and actually lift it up 3 millimeters. Make sure it's centered, okay? And now I'm going to add supports. Choose pillar, and the pillar size is 1.0 millimeters because that's what it was the last time I used it. The default is 2.5, so I'm going to change it back to the default. And actually the threshold overhang was 55% by default, so I'm going to change that as well and click Auto Supports to see what we get. Okay, well, it's covering some of the area, but not all of the area. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click the plus sign, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in those areas where I still see some red. So I'm just clicking to add supports to make sure that bottom area is completely covered. Okay, that bottom is well covered. You see there's a piece of the L that wasn't covered. The J looks pretty good. The S, there's a piece there that probably could use some support. And that part of the S, and maybe over here. Okay. All right, so now I'll call that good. Click back, click Start Slicing. Since I added supports, and some of those supports are resting on the build plate, I need to turn on the raft. We'll say yes. And then under supports, I'm going to increase the space to model X and Y to 0.45 and space to model Z by 0.3 and top solid layers to 2. And click Slice, Slice Preview. And that's what we have. So we have a raft, we have lots of support for the letters in the bottom part of the ring, and nice clean interior. So that should be nice and smooth against your finger. You see the print time is only 7 minutes, so it's very quick. And if this doesn't produce the desired results, you can come back in, change the support settings, or change the orientation of the model and reprint until you have a satisfactory result.